Hi everyone, I'm Kate. I'm an English teacher here on Verbling, and today's class is for intermediate learners, and it's about phrasal verbs. Somehow the title of today's class was deleted from the class description, but for those of you who aren't sure, today's class is about phrasal verbs. So for those of you who are new to Verbling, Verbling is a language learning platform. There are classes in English and Spanish available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So wherever you are in the world, you should be able to take those classes. There's also private tutoring available, and this is in other languages, so English, Spanish, and others. And these are one-on-one sessions that you do at your convenience. So you arrange a time with a class. Okay. So again, today's class is on phrasal verbs, and today's class is on phrasal verbs, and I'm going to send them off in the room. And phrasal verbs are basically verbs that are a combination of a verb and a preposition, right? So some common phrasal verbs, we use them all the time in English, right? We often use them to replace more formal verbs, right? And we use them, in everything from our daily routines to travel. Really, we use them very frequently, and they can be one of the more difficult things for English learners. Okay, so hi everyone. So let's see. I think we're still waiting on a lot of students actually, but welcome to Wenting.
Hello, nice
Hi,
to see
how
you.
are you? Nice to see you too. How are you doing?
Pretty good. How are you?
I'm doing well, thanks. And hi, Gustavo.
Hi, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Very well, thank you.
And where are you calling from?
I'm from Argentina.
From Argentina. Very interesting.
Yes.
Nice
Yes.
to meet
Nice to meet you too.
you. Okay. So again, we're still waiting on some students, I think. But Gustavo and Wenting, have you studied phrasal verbs before?
Yes.
Yes. Both of you?
I a little know too much.
Not too much. Okay. And Wenting, were they difficult?
Difficult? Depends on. Maybe some are difficult, some are not.
They're not too difficult. Okay. So a lot of students think that phrasal verbs are one of the more difficult things in English because you can't really translate them, right? They're difficult to translate, and knowing which verb goes with which preposition or particle in a phrasal verb is basically something you have to memorize, and there are a lot of them. Okay, so we have a few other students. Hi, Allah.
Hello, teacher. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Thank you. I'm fine.
Good. And hi, Mikel or Michael.
Hello, Miguel in Spain. Thank you.
Nice to meet you. Okay.
The same.
Okay. So all right. And so hi to everyone in the chat. Please be respectful and try to contribute to the class. Okay. All right. So today, basically, what we're going to do. Some teachers organize phrasal verbs based on prepositions, some based around routines. But what I've chosen some phrasal verbs that are very common, right? So they're ones that we use a lot. These are verbs that are tested on tests like the TOEFL, right? You'll see them on if you ever take an exam like this. So we're just going to review ones that I think will be helpful in your daily life. And I think instead of me telling you what, all these different phrasal verbs, what I want to do is do an exercise where you'll be seeing these phrasal verbs, maybe for the first time, maybe not, in context. So you'll be looking at these phrasal verbs in sentences, and it's kind of like an exercise. If a student knows, that's great. If you don't know and want to take a guess at the right answer to the exercise, that's fine too. The goal is just to learn them. Okay? So does anyone have questions before we get started?
No, for me, it's clear.
Okay, great. So I'm going to share my screen with you, and you'll see the, I'll show you the exercise. We'll jump right in to the exercise that we're doing. And then at the end of class, we'll practice the phrasal verbs we've learned in some speaking practice, right? So you can see how we actually use them in conversation. Okay. So can everyone see this?
Yes,
Yes.
Okay.
I can
Great.
see.
Okay, so as I said, I could sort of tell you all of the definitions of different phrasal verbs, but I think it's more helpful to see them in context from the beginning. So here, let's see, can I have someone read the directions here under exercise 1?
I can try.
Okay, go ahead, Allah. Or who said that? Sorry. Was that Allah? No. Sorry, who said
Okay.
that?
Yeah.
I don't know who
Okay.
said that, but whoever said they could read, you can read.
Okay. Exercise 1. In the following sentences, choose the correct verb in bold to complete the phrasal verb in italics. The meaning of each phrasal verb you need is given in brackets at the end of each sentence.
Great. So again, basically you have sentences like this one, and you'll have a preposition, right? That's part of the phrasal verb in italics. And then you'll have 3 choices. And you basically have to look at the definition of the verb, right, which is at the end of the sentence, and choose the correct verb that goes with that preposition to make a phrasal verb that means whatever the definition is. And as I said, there's no way you would know these beforehand, or I don't expect you to know the right answers beforehand. This is more just to see them in context and to learn them in sort of a place where we would use them. So feel free to just take a guess, right? If you want to take a guess, that's fine. Okay, so everyone take a minute and read the first sentence. And then if I could have someone read the first sentence out loud, please, and fill in what you think is the appropriate verb.
Could read, teacher?
Go ahead.
Some parents are criticized for the way they bring up their children.
Great. Yeah, the way they bring up their children. So to bring up means?
Raise.
To raise, right? So if you bring up a child, you raise a child. Okay?
Okay.
All right, great. Who can do number 2?
I can.
Okay.
They refused to face up their responsibilities with disastrous consequences.
And great. So to face up to, this is a common phrasal verb. And what does it mean?
To face up to accept to accept an unpleasant state of affairs and try to deal with it.
Yeah.
So to take responsibility or to
take responsibility. Perfect. So and if you think about when you are face to face with something or someone, right? You are dealing with something head on. So it's kind of related, right? To face up to something means even though something is unpleasant, you're going to deal with it and try to find a solution. Okay, who can try number 3?
I can again.
Okay.
The president decided to maybe shoot off his visit to Europe.
Okay. This one is actually call off.
Call off. Okay.
So the first verb, shout. So shout doesn't go with off ever. Shout is a verb on its own. Well, they're all verbs on their own. But shout just means to yell loudly. So here what we say is call off. And to call off, let's see, Gustavo, can you read the meaning, the definition?
To not to go ahead with a plan.
Sorry, there's an error here. It should say not to go ahead with a plan. Sorry, this is an extra 2. Anyway,
Okay.
so yeah, to cancel. So an easier way to say this is just to cancel. Right?
Okay.
Call off or to cancel. Okay. Hi, Aldona.
Hi, how are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm fine, thanks.
Good. Where are you calling from?
I'm from Poland.
From Poland. Very interesting.
Yeah.
Nice to have you here. Okay, so basically we're just doing this exercise on phrasal verbs. I don't expect you to know it already, right? I just want you to see them for the first time, or if you've seen them already, great. If not, I want you to see them for the first time in context. Okay?
Okay. Mm-hmm.
All right, and then we'll practice speaking using these phrasal verbs at the end.
Okay.
Okay, great. So let's see. Can someone try number 4?
I can try.
Okay, go ahead.
It is only at election time that senators count on support from their constituents.
Constituents. Yeah, good. Good, great, Wenting. And constituents is probably a new word. For a lot of you, it means voters, right? So the people who are voting for a certain politician are the constituents. Okay, good. And so to count on, Wenting, what is the definition?
To rely or depend on other people.
Good. Okay. And so count on, very, very common, right? You'll often hear people say, you can count on me, right?
Mm-hmm.
You can count on me, right? You can depend on me. Okay, so count on, you've probably heard before, or you will hear. Okay, great. Who can do number 5?
Okay, me for example.
Okay, go ahead, Mikael.
Many developing countries are filing to. One moment. I think catch up. I'm not sure. To catch up with their more developed neighbors.
Excellent, yeah.
To the same level. Is possible catch?
To catch up with, absolutely. Good, Mikael.
Thank you.
And as it says, what's the definition?
To get to the same level.
Yeah, so to catch up with can be, it can be like it can be something physical, right? So if someone is running faster than you are and you reach them, you try to catch up to them, right? So it can be physical. It can also be sort of more figurative, right? So developing countries are failing to catch up with their more developed neighbors, meaning they're trying to reach the same success, right? The same state of affluence or richness. So, okay, so great. Questions about this one?
Sorry.
Yeah.
More developed neighbors, in this case, refers another countries of neighbors countries.
Yeah, sorry. So here, with their more developed neighbors, this means with neighboring countries. So with other countries that are more developed.
Okay.
Okay, good question. Okay, and hi, welcome Rafael and Stefan.
Hello.
Hi.
Hello. Hi.
Okay, nice to have you both here. So basically, we're just looking at some phrasal verbs in context, right? So you can feel free to, I'm just asking people to read the sentences, and if you know it, that's great. If you want to guess which is the appropriate verb, that's fine too, right? I want you to see them, if it's for the first time, in context. Okay. So
Okay.
so who can try number 6?
Me, I can
Go ahead.
have number 6. It can take months or even years for political scandals to cut down.
Okay, so to cut down is a phrasal verb. So you're right, but it's not the appropriate phrasal verb here.
Fall
here,
down?
To die
Fall
down.
Oh, die down.
Okay, so all 3 of them are actually phrasal verbs, and they all mean different things. So I'll explain each of them to you, right? English is so complicated. To die down, as it says, means to become less strong, right? To weaken. To cut down, you cut down on something. This means you reduce the amount that you do something. So you'll often hear people say, I'm trying to cut down on smoking, right? I'm trying to stop smoking, or I'm trying to cut down on fatty foods, things like that. Okay, and then to fall down is more literal. It just means like to fall over or to fall. To fall down means the same thing. Okay, so here, that's a long explanation for here it's to die down, to become less strong. Okay, good. Great. Okay, so number 7.
I can. Stop.
Okay, go ahead.
An alarming number of students drop out of school nearly every year.
Great. Okay, and a lot of you have probably heard this before, right? To drop out, we often use it when talking about school. If you leave school before you're finished, this could be high school or college, whatever, you drop out. And does anyone know what a person who drops out of school is called?
No, dropper.
A dropout.
No.
It's just called a dropout.
Really?
So a dropout is a person who drops out of school, right? And so notice that for the person, for the noun, it's one word, sorry, and the stress is different, right? You drop out, the verb, and as the noun, it's a dropout. There's more stress on the first syllable. Okay. All right, who can try number 8 for me?
I can try.
Okay, great.
Major international companies can carry out the popularity of the anti-capitalist movement.
Okay, so this is another tricky one because carry out is also a phrasal verb, but the one you want here is figure out.
Figure out.
Figure out is to understand, right? So here we're saying they can't understand why the anti-capitalist movement is popular, right? To carry out is another phrasal verb. Does anyone know what carry out means?
Maybe to do something.
Yeah. Good. To do something. Alaa, were you going to say something?
I was thinking of being something or stand for something, like can bear something, carry out, or not.
Okay.
I'm not sure.
Usually this one is more what Gustavo was saying, right? It's to do something to, if you have a plan and you carry out that plan, that means you realize that plan. You actually do what you say you're going to do.
Okay.
Okay, good. Great. Who can try number 9?
Okay. The committee members out over plans for the new health center. The committee members made out over plans for the new health center.
Okay, so made out is a phrasal verb, but it's not the one we want in this case.
Fill out.
Fill out, yeah.
Out.
Okay, so again, this is one where all of our choices are phrasal verbs, right? So it makes it tricky. So and fell out, what's the definition?
To argue.
Good. So fall out, sorry, I wrote fell out, but it should say to fall out, or to have a falling out. You'll often hear it said like this: it's to fall out or to have a falling out. So this means to argue, and even more, it means when you sort of end a relationship with someone, not a romantic relationship like a friendship or a business relationship. If you have a falling out or you fall out with someone, it means you have sort of a major argument, and it kind of ruins your relationship. Okay, is this one clear?
Yes, and
Yes.
what is the difference between fall out and fell out? It's the same.
Yeah, so fell out, fell is the past tense of fall. It's irregular. Good
Okay.
question. Good question. Yeah.
Okay.
So it's fall, fell, have fallen. Right? So the participle is fallen. Okay, great. So who can try number 10?
I can take it.
Okay.
If they examined the issues more closely, they would find out the reasons.
Great. To find out is similar to figure out, right? It's like to discover.
Okay.
Great. And David, I just saw that you've arrived. Welcome to class. Essentially, instead of just telling you all these definitions of phrasal verbs, we're looking at some common phrasal verbs that are often tested on exams like the TOEFL. We're looking at them in context. So I'm just asking students to read, and if they know, great. If they don't know which the correct verb is, to take a guess.
Okay.
Okay. Great. So can someone try number 11?
We,
Okay, go ahead.
as we grow, stands that look up, our priorities change. To change from being children to being adults.
Good. So do you know which of those verbs combined with up would mean to change from being children to being adults?
Well, it means when you grow up, I think it can means
Yeah, that's absolutely right.
physically.
No, but yeah, so it can be physically. It can also be, you know, sort of the process.
Intellectual.
Yeah.
When
So
you become mature.
of course, yeah. So here, you were right. The answer is to grow up, and it means to become an adult. That can be physically or sort of, as David said, more in your attitude, right? You can say, wow, he's really grown up a lot in the past year. And I'm not necessarily saying he looks older. I'm saying that he's become more mature. Okay, good. Questions about that? Okay, can someone try number 12?
Me, for example, I don't know.
Okay, go ahead, Mikhail.
The problem with the... No, sorry. No, yes.
Okay.
No.
Salary.
No, yes, sorry. Salary very rarely, I think, I'm not sure, work up with the cost of living. rise at the same speed as something else. I'm not sure.
Okay, yeah, this one's difficult. This one is to keep up with. So here,
Keep up,
good. So catch up and keep up are similar but different. So when something catches up with something else, that means that one of them is already going faster, right? We saw the phrasal verb catch up earlier in this sentence about developing countries, right? So developed countries are already more advanced, and developing countries are failing to catch up. Here in number 12, there's a little bit of a difference. To keep up with means to go at the same speed, right? So we're not saying necessarily that one thing is ahead. We're just saying that that two things are moving at the same pace. So it's a slight difference in meaning. Okay. All right. So can someone try 13?
I can.
Okay, great.
The journalist showed out the mistake made by the agency over the last few years.
Okay. It's interesting that you said showed out, because showed is actually by itself means what this phrasal verb should mean. So showed, you don't need the verb out. You could just have the sentence, the journalist showed the mistakes made by the agency over the last few years, and that would be fine, right? Because the definition of the phrasal verb is to show.
Okay.
So a good guess, right? Here, a verb that means the same is to point out.
Point out.
So we say to point out, and that means to show, to indicate. Okay? All
Okay.
right. Good. Very good. Okay, we have a few more.
We missed number 13. We missed number 13.
Oh, you're right. Okay. Great. Can someone do number 13?
Okay, I'll try.
Okay, thanks, Ella.
The problem with the survey is that it keeps out the real reasons for current demographic shifts. Keeps out.
This one is it leaves out.
Leaves out.
Yeah, leaves out. So to leave out means to not include, and this is interesting because keep out is also a phrasal verb, and it just means to prevent someone from entering, right? So you might see signs that say private property, keep out, right? You can't enter. To leave out is a little bit different. It means to not include.
Okay.
To not include. Okay, good. Okay, who can try number...
Sorry, Tichan, why is plural lives and not live?
Okay. Because here, we're using the third person singular, right?
Yes.
The subject is it.
Yes.
So you're adding yes. Good question.
Thank you.
No problem. Okay, who can try number 15? We've already done 14.
What number?
15. Sorry.
Before you write your essay, you should look into the party history.
Excellent, yeah. To look into basically means to research, right? So we use this one a lot, very common, right? Especially in a business setting. You could say, if your boss asks you to research something, you can say, I'll look into that, or I'll look into it, right? I'll check, I'll research.
Look into.
Good. Okay, number 16.
Nobody at the meeting cared, moved up the subject of paid leave. to start discussing a subject.
Good. Do you know which one? Which verb goes with up?
It means when you propose some
Yeah.
subject.
Yeah, good. Does anyone know?
But I didn't understand of paid leave.
Okay, of paid leave. So leave is when it's like paid vacation, basically. When you have time off of work.
Okay. Paid leave.
To brought up.
Yeah, good. Okay, so here the correct answer, as she said, is to bring up, is brought up. So nobody at the meeting brought up the subject of paid leave. And as David said, to bring up means to start discussing a subject, right? To start talking about something. So this is another very common one in business or in academic English, right? You might, if someone says something interesting, you might say, "I'm so glad you brought that up. I had wanted to talk about that," right? So you'll hear that one a lot. Okay, we have two more. We're almost done. Who can do number 17?
Let me take it.
Once people.
Okay, go ahead.
No, it's okay. Go ahead.
Once people fall behind with their mortgage payments, they come under extreme financial pressure from their bank.
Excellent, yeah. And what does it mean to fall behind?
Not to pay at the time.
Yeah, so to fail to do something in general. Yeah, good. Good. So if you fall behind, you have to catch up, right? If you fall behind, you have to catch up. So you can connect that with another phrasal verb that we've learned. Okay. And let's see, the last one, who can try number 18?
The first step to a healthier lifestyle is to cut down on the amount of saturated fats you eat. Cut down?
Yeah, great. And what does it mean to cut down on something?
To start doing less of something, usually because it's bad for you.
Perfect. Okay. So to start doing less of something. Excellent.
Or reduce, not?
To reduce, yeah, to reduce. Exactly. Right, yeah, we did. I forgot I had spoken about that one before. Okay, so does anyone have questions for the moment?
No.
Okay, so I'm going to come back. Okay, I know that was a lot to introduce at one time. And so I want to make sure we spend enough time practicing these. So we've learned 18 plus phrasal verbs. And I think I've written the phrasal verbs and the definitions in the Verbling chat box. So you have them there, right? So you have them there for reference. What I want to do now is I'm going to ask you some questions using phrasal verbs, some discussion questions, and I want you to answer them using phrasal verbs. Okay, so anyone can feel free to answer them. Okay?
Okay.
All right, so for instance, the first question, how did your family bring you up? How were you brought up?
How my family bring up is the question.
How did your family bring you up?
My family bring up, I don't know, my family bring up to me with education, maybe.
Good, yeah, to be polite, right? So in English, educated doesn't mean quite the same thing as in Spanish. We would say to be polite. So you
Okay,
could say, my family brought me up to be polite, to be educated.
okay.
Very good. Yeah, and notice this is an irregular past. Bring, brought. Okay, good. Anyone else? How did your family bring you up? So, for instance, if you had very strict parents, you might say, my family brought me up in a very strict way, right? Or they brought me up with a lot of rules, things like that. Okay, good.
Can you write the question in?
Oh, sorry, it was the same question. So I'll move on. That one wasn't too popular.
The opposite to strict.
Sorry.
And how can I say the opposite to the
Okay.
strict creation?
They were lax.
Lack.
Lax. L-A-X.
With X?
With X. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Lax.
Lax
Was your family?
creation or lax grew up? Education, lax education.
Lax is the opposite of strict. So you could say
Okay.
my parents were very lax, bringing me up.
Okay, okay.
Good. Good. Let's see. And what were you like growing up? This is another question for the class. What were you like growing up?
I would like growing up very lax.
What were you like?
Yes, I
But
would
you were,
like. I was like very lax.
so you were very lax, you could say very relaxed growing up.
Relax.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Good. Good.
This lax comes from relax.
They're different. So relaxed means calm, right? When you're, you're not worried, you're not stressed. Lax is talking about an authority figure, and it means not strict.
Okay.
Not strict. Okay, and another question with the same verb. Where did you grow up? Question for the class. Where did you grow up?
I grew up in a I grew up in a small, peaceful city.
Mm-hmm. Good. Anyone else? Where did you grow up, class?
I grow up in a small neighborhood.
Mm-hmm. In a small neighborhood? Okay.
Yes.
I grew up, right? Another irregular past. I grew up in a small neighborhood. Great.
Okay. I grew up.
Mm-hmm. Anyone else? Okay. Let's see. Is there anything?
I grew up.
Go
Sorry.
ahead. No, go ahead.
I grew up with a lot of friends.
I grew up with a lot of friends. Great.
You can say?
Perfect. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I grew up with a lot of friends. Great. Good. Okay. What was I going to ask? Is there anything that you're trying to cut down on? Is there anything you're trying to cut down on?
Yes, I sometimes try to cut down on my weight.
Okay, so this is an interesting point. So what you said is almost correct, but you can't, how do I explain this? When you cut down on something, you can cut down on something in order to lose weight, right? But you can't cut down on weight. You can, even though it means reduce, we can't use it with weight. So you could say, so for instance, how do you try to lose weight?
I try to cut down the amount of sweets.
Yeah, okay. So you can say, I try to cut down on sweets in order to lose weight, right? Absolutely. Good.
I'm trying to cut down excess of work.
Okay, so I'm trying to cut down on excess work. Good, Gustavo. And remember, it's always to cut down on, right? And then a noun.
Yes, good.
Anyone else? What are you trying to cut down on? People use this frequently with smoking, right? I'm trying to cut down on smoking. I hear it a lot with smoking and with unhealthy foods, basically. So I'm trying to cut down on smoking. I'm trying to cut down on sweets, on fats, things like that. Okay, good.
I'm trying to cut down chocolates.
On chocolate, good. Me too. It's hard. Okay. All right. Okay, some other questions. Let's see. Are there some subjects that you shouldn't bring up at work?
You shouldn't bring up personal issues on work.
Okay, Ella, you think that you shouldn't bring up personal issues. Okay, good. Other ideas? What are some subjects that you really shouldn't bring up at work?
I shouldn't bring up the payment issues.
You shouldn't bring up payment issues. Okay. Good.
This is about topic that we can't talk in our work.
Yeah, so things that you shouldn't talk about at work.
Okay.
Because what does it mean again to bring up? To bring something up?
We shouldn't bring up with violence.
You shouldn't bring up violence.
Next to children.
You shouldn't bring up violence. Okay, explain what you mean.
We can't talk about violence close to children.
Okay, yeah. So we shouldn't bring up violence when we're near children, or when we're around children. Yeah. Okay. Good. And so I want everyone to notice here that to bring up can mean two very different things, right? The first way we used it, so here we're saying to bring up, meaning to introduce, to raise an issue, right? To talk about something. What was the other definition that we had for to bring up? Does anyone remember?
Bring up.
Bring up children.
Yeah, so to raise a child. Okay, so the same phrasal verb in this case can mean two very different things. One is to raise a child, right? To bring up a child. The other one means to introduce an idea or a subject, to bring up a topic. Okay?
Okay.
All right, good. I'll ask you a few other questions. Let's see. Do a lot of students in your country drop out of school?
Drop out.
Do a lot of students in your country drop out of school?
The number of dropping out children is increasing.
Good. The number
in
of
my country.
dropouts, right? The number of dropouts or the number of children who drop out
Increases.
is increasing. Excellent. Okay.
Is increasing.
Well, that's a bad thing, but good use of the phrasal verb. Okay, good, Allah. In other students, is the number of, or do a lot of students in your country drop out of school?
In this country, the children drop out when don't have money to buy books.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so they drop out when they don't have money to buy books. Yeah, that
Yes.
can be a big problem. That can be a big problem. Okay. So I have some more questions for you, right? We talked about 18 of these phrasal verbs, but what I want you to do now, so that you are, everyone is more participating in the discussion, I want you to scroll up in the verbling box. Go up to where I started typing the phrasal verbs. So I think the first one was to bring up, then we had to face up to. See if you can come up with, that's another phrasal verb, to come up with, and it means to bring up, basically, or to invent. See if you can come up with some questions that use the phrasal verbs we talked about, some questions for your classmates. Okay, so I want everyone to take, I'll give you 2 or 3 minutes. I want you to think of at least 2 questions using the phrasal verbs we talked about today. 2 questions that you can ask the rest of the class.
Okay.
So you have 2 or 3 minutes to do that.
Sorry, teacher. One do the question and the other answer, or?
Sorry, so I want everyone to think of two questions at least, and then you're going to take turns asking your classmates. Okay, so I was just giving everyone some time to think of questions. Okay. So does anyone have a question prepared that he or she would like to ask?
Yes, I have.
Okay.
I can.
Okay.
I have. Sorry.
All right.
What would you like to call off in your work?
Okay.
It's okay.
It's okay. So what do you mean by to call off?
To cancel or to remove?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So that could work then. Yeah. So yeah, what's something that you would like to call off in your work? Okay. Good question. What do you say? So let's hear some answers from the class.
Sorry, teacher.
So I said, Gustavo, that was a good question.
Yes.
So now I want your classmates to answer it.
Teacher, a lot of background noises.
There is a lot of background noise. Does anyone know where that's coming from? Okay. All right. I guess it was Mikael. So Gustavo asked, what would you like to call off in your work? Who can answer that?
Okay, this question is for Aldona, for
Good.
example.
Okay, so Aldona, what would you like to call off in your work?
I would you like to call off the early hours when we start work.
Okay, good.
As you start working too early, so I would call it off.
Okay, good. So you would like to call off the early mornings, you could say.
Yes.
Okay, great, good. Good. Okay, let's see. Aldona, could you ask a question to the class now, using a phrasal verb?
Okay. How do you feel when your last plane is called off?
Okay, good. Yeah. So, do you mean your last flight?
Last plane to home, for example.
Okay. How do you feel? Good. If
How
you're
do you feel when your plane is called off?
okay, good. How do you feel if
Train is called off.
Good. So, how do you feel when your plane is called off? Right? Maybe, as she said, it's the last flight home. Who can answer this one?
I feel very sad because here we don't have a lot of planes. We don't have planes, regular planes, maybe.
Yeah.
So expression.
Good. Yeah, you don't have regular flights. Okay.
Yes.
Good. Great. Good. Okay. Excellent. Who has another question to ask the class? Using a phrasal verb.
Okay. Do you count on your coworkers in work, or you prefer to do everything single-handedly?
Excellent, Allah. Okay. Good. So, do you count on your co-workers at work, or do you prefer to do everything single-handedly? And that's a great word, single-handedly, meaning by yourself, right? With one hand, literally. Okay, so let's see. Ella, why don't you choose someone to answer your question?
Okay. Rafael?
Okay.
Okay. Could you repeat the question, please?
Do you count on your coworkers on work, or you prefer to do everything single-handedly?
I'd rather count on my coworkers at work, but mainly I'm really strict about my tasks. So most of them I'd rather do single-handedly because I like to do things. I like to see things done in my way, and sometimes they don't understand.
Excellent. Yeah. Good. Good, Raphael. Great. So, can anyone else answer this question? Let's hear another answer. Do you count on your coworkers?
I need to count on with my coworker because in my work everything have different specializations.
Okay, great. Yeah, so you need to count on your coworkers because things are so specialized at your workplace. Okay, great.
Okay, thank you.
Excellent. And let's see, Raphael, why don't you read your question?
What do you do when you are about to fall behind an attempt?
Okay, to fall behind on an attempt.
On an attempt, okay.
Perfect. Okay. Great. So Raphael, why don't you choose someone to answer your question?
Mikel?
Okay, Mikel.
Okay, sorry, Rafael, can you repeat, please?
What do you do when you're about to fall behind on an attempt?
Sorry, but I understand good well the question.
Okay.
One moment.
Maybe you can write
So he wrote it in the verbling box.
in Berlin.
So Mikel, the question, he typed the question in the verbling box.
Yes, one moment.
Okay, it's okay. Here, I'll paste it in the chat box. Let's see.
I try. I'm not sure. I try to. I have to answer with this phrasal verb.
If you can, but you don't have to.
I try to file on. I try to file on. I'm not sure, Rafael. I can. Sorry, I need help.
That's okay. All right. Can someone help Mikel? What's something you can do when you're about to fall behind on an attempt? Anyone? If you answer with a phrasal verb, you get extra points.
Okay, I'll try.
Okay.
If I fell down on behind, sorry, if I fell behind on an attempt, I'm sure I would not fall behind on another.
Good. Yeah, you would make sure not to fall behind on another. Okay, good. And you could also say, if I am, so if you are about to fall behind, you could say, I will try to catch up, right? You could try to catch up, another phrasal verb. Okay. All right, let's hear another question using a phrasal verb. Who can ask one more question? Anyone? Okay, I guess.
I am thinking.
Okay, no problem.
Okay, do you think that bad reputation would die down after a while?
Good, yeah. So do you think that a bad reputation will eventually die down? Do you think a bad reputation will eventually, which means after a while, die down? Does everyone understand the question? Okay.
What is, do you think?
So to die down, as we said before, means to weaken, to sort of fade away.
Okay.
Okay, and in the interest of time, I would say I hope so, right? Hopefully, a bad reputation eventually will die down, right? People will eventually forget a bad reputation, right?
I think that the bad reputation will die down if you do good things.
Perfect, right? Exactly, that's great, right? If you do good things and sort of change the way people think of you. Okay, So we're out of time. Does anyone have any sort of last-minute questions, comments?
No, teacher, it's okay.
All right. Good. Well,
Thank
great
you.
work. I know we did a lot today, so try to keep using these phrasal verbs. Okay? Everyone have a great day, and I will see you soon. Okay,
Okay.
bye-bye.
Thank you, teacher. Bye-bye.